Hello everyone, this is Daniel. This is a dubbing for Andres Cervantes from Archicultura. When it comes to monumentality and antiquity, only one construction on the face of the earth embodies both characteristics to the extreme. I'm referring, of course, to the Great Pyramid of Giza. As this work dates back to the 26th century BC, the construction process is one of the greatest mysteries in the history of engineering and architecture. The Great Pyramid was built to be the tomb of the pharaoh Khufu and had to be completed before his death, so it is believed that the workers had between 20 and 40 years to finish it. Let's see how the work is structured. For this monument, a square of 230 meters per side was traced, perfectly oriented with the cardinal point. On the outside, there are perfectly carved and fitted limestone blocks, but on the inside, irregularly carved blocks can be seen, reducing considerably the construction time. Pyramids were used as a means for the pharaoh to become a deity after his death. Let's see what's inside. On the north side, space was left for access. Large inclined blocks were placed to prevent the collapse of the entrance. The entrance has a steep slope leading to a level far below the base of the pyramid. Here, there is an underground chamber, the exact use of which is not known for certain. It is believed to have been the original burial space, but the pharaoh decided to change it for one we'll see later. Anyway, this is just a hypothesis. From this slope, a corridor appears that leads us to an ascending path. Once this is finished, it is possible to take two paths. The first is a horizontal passage that leads to the queen's chamber, although this space was not intended for the pharaoh's wife, but for a Ka statue of the pharaoh, said to contain part of his spirit. Large blocks were placed over this chamber to create a gabled roof, done to redirect the loads to the sides, preventing the chamber from collapsing under the weight of all the blocks above it. If we return to the ascending corridor, we reach the Grand Gallery, a passage of approximately 8 meters in height, which contrasts considerably with the others, which are much lower. To cover the Grand Gallery, a construction element known as a false vault was used, resulting from extending a false arch, which consists of a wall where the higher blocks are increasingly displaced towards the interior. When the blocks finally meet at the top, they stabilize the structure. The gallery continues to ascend until the antechamber, a transitional space before entering the king's chamber, although this space will have a very important use beyond being a simple transition space, as we'll see later. We arrive at the king's chamber, which, being larger than the queen's, required special conditions. As a first measure, limestone was not used, but rather red granite, a much more resistant stone and of course much more dignified for the tomb of a king. The pyramid was built to protect the pharaoh's body after his death and to prevent the pyramid itself from crushing him. Several granite chambers were made above the main enclosure, all finished with a gabled roof. In addition to this, there are ducts that go from the king's and queen's chambers to the exterior of the pyramid. The function of these is uncertain, but they could have served for the pharaoh's spirit to exit and ascend to the sky, transformed into a deity. Currently, an electrical system is installed to use them as ventilation ducts. Accessing the pyramid might seem straightforward, but it's not. In the antechamber, there are a series of slots to install large granite blocks. When the pharaoh's body was in place, the 3 blocks were dropped, sealing the access to this room. Additionally, other blocks would fall from the Grand Gallery, sliding down the ascending passage to block its entrance. But if that wasn't enough, it was covered with blocks, hiding the entrance forever, or so they believed. The original finish of the pyramid was polished white limestone, giving it a dazzling white appearance. As a curiosity, the faces are not completely flat. They are crossed with a vertex, meaning that this pyramid doesn't have 4 faces, but 8. Currently, without the finish, this detail is practically imperceptible. Additionally, at the top, a pyramid of gold was placed, reaching a height of just over 145 meters, crowning it as the tallest structure in the world, retaining this title for over 3 millennia. At some point after the pharaoh's burial, conveniently informed thieves entered the pyramid, but not through the main entrance. Instead, they dug a tunnel several meters below the entrance to reach the 3 blocks blocking access to the Grand Gallery. To avoid this, the thieves simply traced the tunnel above the block, easily bypassing it. Then they climbed up the Grand Gallery to the last obstacle, the 3 granite slabs, which were drilled, to finally reach the king's chamber, stripping it of all its contents. During the last centuries before Christ, several historians made lists of worthy places to visit, known as the 7 Wonders of the Ancient World, with the Great Pyramid appearing in several of those lists. As time passed, the white limestone cladding was lost. Another common phenomenon was the use of this stone for other buildings in the city. And if the white limestone and the treasures inside the pyramid were stolen, the gold tip wouldn't fare any better. It is claimed that the thieves' entrance was opened in 820 AD by Caliph al-Ma'mun, but there are inconsistencies in this story. It was very difficult to have such detailed information about the interior of the pyramid in an era so far from the completion of the work. Additionally, when the Caliph entered, the pyramid was already completely empty. Therefore, it is believed that the thieves entered earlier and most likely worked on the construction of the pyramid and entered shortly after the pharaoh's burial. For practicality, nowadays tourists enter the Great Pyramid through the thieves' entrance instead of using the original entrance, which is partially uncovered. It's time to take a look at some of the theories about the construction of the pyramid. At first glance, the most reasonable would be a ramp perpendicular to the pyramid, but as the structure increases in height, the ramp's slope becomes steeper to impossible levels to climb, requiring an extensive ramp needing as much material as the pyramid itself. So, to avoid such an extensive ramp, another option would be a spiral ramp, but this raises more questions than answers. For example, how can such a large ramp be attached to a smooth pyramid? But most importantly, this ramp would conceal the pyramid during the construction process, preventing precise control over the regularity of the faces and edges, so when the ramp is removed, surprises may be found. Another theory, a bit more interesting, was proposed by the French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin. He talks about a spiral ramp, but inside the pyramid. Some radar explorations have revealed lower density in some areas of the pyramid, describing a spiral, further supporting this theory. But further exploration of this topic has not been allowed. One last theory, this one is the most acclaimed by the general public, but is vehemently rejected by experts. In 2007, a vote was held to choose the 7 wonders of the modern world, including the Great Pyramid in the vote, but due to the dissatisfaction of Egyptian cultural authorities, the Great Pyramid ceased to be a contestant and, as the only one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world still standing, received the title of honorary wonder. No wonder that there is an Arab proverb that says, "Man fears time, but time fears the pyramids." Well, that's all for today. If you liked it, don't forget to like and share with your friends. And to not miss future content, subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. This has been Andres Cervantes. Until next time.